But we're going to start the day. It's going to be a pretty packed day. We're going to start the day with a very interesting panel that is actually something that we started, in fact, Alberto, way more than I, on our blog in Corriere della Sera. And the topic is La Nuova Italia che avanza. So, giving visibility to the ones of you that are actually making a big splash in the world, in Italy, but also beyond Italy. And so that's going to be the topic. So I'm going to call on stage Emil Abirascid, friend and expert, probably as nobody else, of the Italian startup scene. So I'll leave you alone and call your guest up.
Okay,
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, good morning from me also. I don't know how my English will be this morning. Last night I went to bed at 2 because I was trying to go home early, but I met so many interesting people at the party, so I decided to spend the time talking with people than sleeping. And I think I'm gonna to pay this morning, but it's okay. It's part of the game. And thanks to Alberto and Marco to having me today. I really appreciated the job they are doing and the program they created. I don't think Marco is insane because he left Google. I think he did the right thing because, Google is a big company, but this is a big challenge, and I think it's more fun. And this morning I will have the honor to have with me on stage for Italian entrepreneurs that are developing their companies, let's say globally. And so I asked to Elena Favilli, co-founder and CEO of Timbuktu, to join me here on stage. I asked also to Kim Guk, founder and CEO of Cibando, to join us. Then Marco Palladino, co-founder of Mashape, and Max Ciccotosto, that is founder and former CEO of Wishpot. Welcome to all of you, and I just can add a couple of words about what I'm doing. I'm a journalist, as Marco said, but I also create a community that is called StartupBusiness, and you are all invited to join because it's a place where we try to act as a glue of the entire ecosystem. Welcome on stage, guys, and of course, I'll ask you to speak in English, as I'm trying to do this morning. And the first thing I want to do is, the title of this panel is The Italian Gold, or God, I don't know, Gold, in Silicon Valley and beyond. So we are talking about a couple of experiences coming from Silicon Valley, a couple coming from other part of the world, showing that this startup phenomenon is actually real globally, and opportunities are in many places today. And I want to start with Elena, and I want she to tell us a bit more about what Timbuktu does. But what I want to know from you is actually your experience in Silicon Valley. But what I want to know is mostly in terms of which is the feeling you had the first time you arrived here, as an entrepreneur that comes from Italy, which kind of mood you felt.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody. So I'm Timbuktu is a company that makes a digital magazine for parents and children, and we started almost 2 years ago, but the company was officially incorporated in the US this past May, after winning Mind the Bridge last year and going to San Francisco last January. It all started because after going to San Francisco, we applied to the accelerator program 500 Startups, which is based in Mountain View in Silicon Valley. and we got selected, and so we got accepted into the program. So we moved all the company that at that time was just four people. So my co-founder and me and then our CTO and our designer, and we started a 4-month program with 500 startups, which is one of the most prestigious accelerator programs in the US, and that helps you connect with investors locally in Silicon Valley and in San Francisco, and helps you grow your product and your business with mentorships and workshops. And so at the end, so we came in with a very different product from the one that we have now, and that we're gonna launch hopefully very soon. It's now in review finally with Apple, so we're waiting for their approval. And so it was really like an exciting experience, because we felt constantly challenged to improve what we were doing and to respond to all the feedbacks that we were constantly getting from mentors and all investors also, but especially mentors that were part of the network around Dave McClure. And so we the feeling that I would say that you find when you arrive in Silicon Valley is this huge amount of energy that is pushing you forward constantly, and that is pushing you towards like what you really want to do. And so a really sense of urge towards like the future that is very different from what we felt while being in Italy instead, where we were like constantly struggling to find people that would give a chance to Timbuktu.
Okay, well, thanks, Elena, for this first comment about your experience, and I want to stay in San Francisco area, asking to Marco Palladino, he is co-founder of Mashape, to tell a bit more about your company, your experience, and what you're doing now in San Francisco.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Marco, co-founder and CTO at Mashape. Mashape is a marketplace for software components, so help developers create and distribute software components that companies, other developers can integrate into their applications. And the story of Mashape, it's a long story. We started fundraising and building the product here in Italy, and then we got bored trying to get an investment here, so we just left and took a plane and went there, and we tried to build a network there of people that could help us getting an investment. So like we basically left Milano just with a bunch of vision, hope, and a prototype, and we went there in San Francisco trying to meet everybody and try to get introductions to venture capitalists. One thing that everybody should know about Silicon Valley is that it's really hard to do business there and get investments or make partnerships without a network that can basically introduce you to other people. And Silicon Valley seems like a pretty open place, an open-minded place from the outside, but from the inside, in reality, is that it's a closed community, and you can get benefits from this community only if you're into it. So to make business in Silicon Valley, to get money from Silicon Valley, you must be there. We knew that, and that's the reason why we went there. And we were lucky, and we were hungry, and we found our angel investors. We found our angel investors at Stanford in a conference where we basically meet everybody trying to get money. After 3 weeks, we had to leave for Italy because our visa expired, and luckily we were lucky enough to find investors, to find the first 100K, and that gave us hope to continue and build a product and find 1 year later another seed investment round, $1.5 million from venture capitalists and angel investors. And the way we got this investment was funny as well, because we got the investment from the introductions that we got working at our co-working space, from our lawyers, from people that we met years before and that lately finally at the end helped us to get the investment. So like building the network was the first thing we tried to do, because the network brings you the power in the Silicon Valley. Yeah, and now the company, it's growing. We are hiring people. Those are exciting times now at Mashape. We have more than 1,100 APIs, both public and private. We're closing some interesting partnerships with companies there, and it's a pretty funny time, exciting time. We found a new office, a Victorian house, so it's kind of an acre house. We both live and work there, and it's kind of funny, yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. He told me before that he's taking the occasion to come to Mind the Bridge Venture Camp to spend some time with his family, because it was 5 months, so you didn't come here.
Yeah, exactly. I've been in US for 6 months, and I came back here to speak here, tell my experience, and also say hello to my family, to my parents. Yeah.
Very good. Thanks, Marco. Max, you don't live in Silicon Valley, in the sunny Silicon Valley, but you live in the sunny Seattle.
Popular for this.
Exactly. And your company was recently bought by another company. Will you tell us a bit more about Wishpot and the recent exit you had?
Yes. Hi everyone, my name is Massimiliano Ciccotosto, but by international standards I go as Max. Yeah,
like an airport.
Yeah, it does help, especially with the spelling. So yeah, I've been living in Seattle for now a good chunk, about 10 years. I was in Microsoft before, and as you probably know, Seattle is mostly famous for the sun that shines throughout the year.
Yeah, beaches.
It's about 2 weekends a year, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a joke. It's like, oh, it's the weekend. Today's gonna be sunny. Enjoy your summer. So but it's a fantastic place. It's a fundamentally different place for from the Bay Area. It might not look like that different to the untrained eyes, but if you have tried to raise money in both cities, you realize what the difference is. Very short. I don't know if I'm not addressing the question just yet, but Seattle is a great place if you're in enterprise space, retail, healthcare, telecommunication. Essentially, if you're doing stuff that's not that fun, then it's a great place. If you're doing stuff, if you want to do stuff like photo and all the consumer cool stuff, then San Francisco is a much better place. But it's been tremendous, great community. If you're trying to recruit developers, it's the best place in the US. It has far more developers than San Francisco. There are better developers, of course. And so it's I'll look, if you're okay with rain, and if you're from Milan, it's not that different. Then Seattle is a good option. So back to us, Wishpot was one of the first social shopping destination. It started as a simple way to help consumers to save and buy the stuff that they like. When the economy got tough in 2008, 2009, we shifted the focus of the company to the enterprise space. Being in Seattle, in my background being enterprise, we started a new brand called Vampop, which helped retailers to merchandise products in social networks. At the time we got acquired, we had more than 1,000 clients, from Guess to Pirelli to a ton of small guys, a ton of partnerships, and so we made great strides in helping brands understand how to sell products to social networks. And in doing so, we developed actually a lot of good technology that a buyer like Lockers was interested in. Lockers may not be as familiar to you as some of the other big players in the space, like Pinterest and all the fancy in Europe. But it kind of plays in the same space, mostly focused on a young female demographic. And so they acquired us because of our e-commerce expertise and e-commerce technology. And so for the past month already, we've been integrating a lot of our technology into their broader offering. So.
But they acquired you because your competence, your platform,
Yeah,
or
mostly
for the value of the market that Wishpot was able to create.
The thing that they cared the most was our deep expertise in retail. So we happen to work with thousands of retailers and with a lot of technology that applies to the social commerce space. And so they were mostly interested in the people, in the team, in the technology that we had, and the connections that we had. In fact, actually, from a technical standpoint, they didn't care about the contracts that we had outstanding with our customers.
Okay, and you are happy of the deal?
Yeah, it was great for everybody. I mean, it was interesting because as you go through this exit, we were talking to a ton of companies. Literally, we talked to 150 companies in the process, right? And it comes down, M&A advisor will tell you, hey, you just try to come down to 2 companies to try to compete for the price, right? And we had another local company, which is a very big retailer out of Seattle. Many of you can guess probably what the company is, but and there was a fundamental difference. Like both of them valued our experience in the retail space. One of them did not care about our investors, right? So they were like, hey, you should shift your priorities and care about yourself only. And take a bigger offer for you guys, but we really don't care about the investors. So we're gonna give you a sweet deal so that you can sort of betray the investors and come work for us. We did not like that approach, and so we went to a different route, which we thought was fair to everybody.
And tell us something more about. Marco said that Silicon Valley, it's a place, is a closed community. You must be there, know people, network all the time in order to. Is the same in Seattle?
Yeah, I think fundamentally that kind of applies to most communities. Like you gotta be there, know people to get introduced. Yeah, the basic dynamics are the same. It is a little bit smaller community than the one in the Bay Area. It is a little bit more welcoming and a little bit easier going. You can get lunch with people, get feedback, and so forth. But yeah, fundamentally, you need to know people in doing it. How you go about doing that is a whole different discussion. I personally, I actually took a step back from a lot of the networking events and so forth, just because time constraints. And at some point, you don't have the time to go to one event every day, especially if you have a 2 years old and a wife at home. It just gets a lot more challenging. And so I try to be a little bit more picky with the events that I attend, but and also been doing this for a little bit longer, so I know a lot of people. As you go. So, but definitely, community is the same. It's the same basic. You have to know people, wait for intros, try to get intros. It's just the best way to do it.
Very good, very good. Well, wait a few years when your kid will be a bit older, you can bring him with you. That's what I do, for example, to startup weekends. It's fun for them.
I
really.
Definitely will. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll see. You'll see. Guk Kim. Your name is Italian like mine, and you developed your company here in Italy. You're still in Italy. You probably move from Rome to Milan. That is a big shift. Yeah. And but at the same time, you are already international because your investor, because your perspective on the market. Will you tell us about Cibando and your international vision? You probably go to the States too.
So my name is Guk. As you know, I'm not Italian, but I've been living here for a long time, and I feel more Italian than Korean. I've been living in Italy for the past probably 20 years by now, so I feel more Italian. And I started my company in Rome, Cibando. Cibando is a restaurant finder. You can download the Cibando from the App Store, Android Market, and soon we'll probably be on the BlackBerry Market as well. And what we do is we help restaurants market themselves properly, because we notice that most of the times they showcase their restaurant, just the tables and the chairs, but they never show the food that they actually sell. So what we want to do is to help them, communicate properly. You're selling food, so showcase the food instead of the tables that you have. And unlike them, I've never been to the States. I've never had the contacts with American venture capitalists. I've been just looking around Europe, and but the company is international because we received funding recently, like 10 months ago, from a German fund called Point Nine Capital. We received funding. I think it's more international than other startups in Italy because I've never worked with an Italian developer. We have a development team in Ukraine, in Belarus, and in Romania. We have around 8 developers in total. In Italy, we have an editorial team. We have a network of photographers. We have a network of salespeople, and everything else that requires a presence in Italy. And I've been moving from Rome to Milan often for the business purposes, and yeah.
And what are your further plans to expand your company internationally? I mean, you said you've never been in the States, you've never been in Silicon Valley. Is that a place where you can go as a potential market to expand further your company, or not, because your business is more, tailored for Italy and Europe?
Well, I think that there is enough market in Europe. Europe is big enough, and I don't think it's necessary for me to go from Italy to the States and start developing the company there, because there are lots more competitors. The competitors have more money, more funding than us. So I think it's better to play on your playground than going to someone else's playground and try to conquer the market for now. But obviously, I want to become stronger in Europe first, and then build my muscles here first, and then go compete in the States as well. So I don't think it's necessary for me now to already think about the United States or Canada. That it's, there's Yelp, there's other companies that are much bigger than me and with much bigger funding rounds that they, than us.
Okay, let's go back to Elena. What I'm really curious is, which is after you started your experience in Silicon Valley and you started to look back to Italy. I mean, you can compare the two systems, and which are, if any, some your how your vision of what is happening here is changing after the experience you are having there. So, in other words, what do you think that the Italian or European startup ecosystems lack, and something that must be we need to work on?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough question. There are so many things. Well, the main difference is obvious. It's in Silicon Valley, it's much easier for startups to access early stage capital than it is here, because there's a more like grounded culture of angel investing, and so that's the main difference. I mean, that for a very early stage company, it's much easier to raise money there than in Italy right now. Even though it's not true that you just need to go to Silicon Valley to have money raining on your head on the first day that you're there. I mean, it's still a very long process. It takes time. It takes a lot of energy. It takes to build relationship, as he was saying before. So even there, the fundraising always comes at the end of a very long process. It's never immediate. It's never instant. But yes, I mean there's a lot more of opportunities. But yes, looking back now, I started in 2010 with working capital, so that was like my first experience with a startup scene environment. I didn't know anything about startups before, and I'd never thought before that I would ended up founded a startup or a company even. And so what I can say now is that I do see a difference in Italy from just 2 years ago. I see a big difference because all these events that then became to spread, and so also we participated to all of them, to Working Capital, to the Intesa San Paulo startup initiative, then to Mind the Bridge. I think they all very much contributed to create a new startup culture, which is like the main, the most important thing, because when you create a culture, then young people, talented people start to believe that they can do something, that they can make a difference, that they can at least try to build something. And so we receive like every day emails from like young people asking us advice or feedbacks, or what should I do? Should I participate to this or this? So I think that this is really something that didn't exist before, and that now it's here, and that everybody can take advantage of now.
Well, it's interesting the fact you used the word culture a few times, because I think it is a key point. You know, the culture, it's important. I mean, the awareness that something is happening. So I'm personally convinced that we heard some people saying in the video before they want to change the world with their startups, and it's good. But I think they are already changing the world, just doing something, just creating startups, even if the startups will not have the success they expect, but they are contributing to already. You are all contributing to changing the world, because you are contributing to create this awareness that innovate. It's an important thing. The entrepreneurship, it's a real option for young people, not only young, but I mean with people with ideas and the willingness to transform that ideas in project without sleeping, as people say that. Me too. You agree with what Elena said. I mean, you are not coming so often to Italy recently, but I don't know if you have any chances to follow what's happening here from San Francisco. But I'm sure you know the ecosystem here. So, which are the main differences and the main thing we should work on in order to improve things in Italy? Keeping our specific and our characteristics. We don't want to replicate Silicon Valley. It doesn't make any sense. But if there is something we can do it.
I agree that the increasing number of companies and startups and entrepreneurs creates more awareness in the industry, and this creates like propagates like a risk culture, which is really important when starting new companies or starting new startups. And risk, I think it's the awareness of risk, you know, like it's something that it's really important for this country. People need to start companies and find the best ecosystem for their businesses. Like at the end of the day, it's just about how much value you create, how much impact your company creates. It's just about building value. So like for some people, building a company in Italy brings more value than doing it in US or somewhere else. I personally think that being in the right place, it's what really matters. Because in the right place, you are in the right ecosystem, you can meet the right people, and if you work hard, you can create the best opportunities for your company and for your venture. And I personally think that if Silicon Valley was in Kazakhstan, I would have gone in Kazakhstan, because it's not about being close to the family, it's not about being close to friends, it's just about creating as much value as you can. And the ecosystem in Italy, it's changing, and even if I'm not coming here very often, I meet lots of people in San Francisco that come and find us and talk with me and tell me about what's happening here, what are the main difficulties, and how's the environment here. And I can say that it's improving, and I'm happy for that. And people sometimes don't want to leave their country because for maybe fear, or because it's harder to start a business in a different country with no friends, with no parents, with no in another environment and a different culture. But I think it's it's really important to make the right decision in life. And when building a business, the right decision is going and do the things that create the most value. So like Italy lacks, I think, ecosystem for these kind of companies, for technology startups, because there is a lack of there is no an exit market, there is no Nasdaq in Italy, there is little money because there is a little market, but it's growing. I'm happy with that. But at one point, the entrepreneur must recognize that if going to another place is better for the company, for his life, then he should just do it.
That's very good. And well, now you're in the middle of your experience and creating your company, developing your company there. But it happens sometimes you think you can come back to Italy and try to make a company here also. Bring back some of your experience and knowledge in order to help also the ecosystem of your own country to grow up.
Yes, I think about that. I think about creating value here in my home country eventually in the long term. And the thing is, it's not just me. It should be like everyone that needs to help the ecosystem. And unfortunately, it's not just a matter of people doing it. It's also a matter of laws, of the government, and that's really hard to change. It takes a long time. But yes, I think that coming here and telling people to take their risks and go to the place where they have most probabilities to succeed creates awareness. And I think that already helps entrepreneurs here to make the right choice.
Yeah, creates awareness. And this awareness is also having as consequences the fact that even in Italy some things is happening even on government side. So the phenomenon is growing. Awareness is very important. So. This is happening. Something is changing. I mean, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I was going around talking about startups and venture capitalists, and people was looking at me like I came from Lebanon. Now it's everyone talk about those kind of things. I expect that one day I receive on my email something like an event on startup and astrology. Because there are so many events, so many things, so many. So this environment, this ecosystem is growing very much, and it's made by smart people, and this is also changing the world, and we are doing it definitely. What is the perception from Seattle, the other side of the world? And of Italy, you have any chances to follow what's happening here, and what you suggest?
Yeah, I think from a pure business standpoint, generally speaking, from the Seattle area, there is not much focus to Italy. I mean, most of the companies I work with, don't think about, we need to go open a sub in Italy. Personally, I've been following, I would say, like fairly closely. I don't read everything, but I've been paying attention to what's going on in Italy, of course. And I think it's certainly very, very positive what we've been seeing over the past, I think, like couple of years. Especially in the past year, there seems to be a sort of acceleration in momentum in trying to kind of like start setting up the right environment and kind of like the right building blocks to make things kind of like go a little bit smoother for young companies, especially from the operations standpoint and some of the things that come with it. So I think that's very, very positive. As Marco was saying, that there's definitely challenges as you look, a little bit further ahead in the life cycle of a company in terms of like the exit, partnerships, the type of customers that you can get for the type of company you have. Certainly being in US, I mean, it's a bigger market, so it just helps, just the way it is. I mean, you cannot just make up 400 million people, right? And so there are challenges there, and I think that, one thing that, so I think great progress overall. One comment I'll make is that Marco made, which I think it's incredibly important is that fundamentally, when you are in a young company, you are creating value every day, right? I mean, your number one goal is to return money to your investor, hopefully with a lot more money that they actually give you.
And value for your customers.
Exactly. So it's really about value. Are you doing something better for your customers? Are you just improving every day? And I think and this might be more the pragmatic Northwest sort of take, but a lot of times I'm hoping that the progress that we see in Italy doesn't come with some of what I would call the BS of the startup world, which is just go for the ride just for the sake of a ride, instead of being focused on creating value for your customers, which should be really the only thing you're focused on. Doing 40 meetings with VCs is not fun. It's just a waste of time most of the times, and it's just not cool. And so I'm cautious just to make sure that at the very end it's really about the fundamentals. It's something we really focus on as we grow our company.
You said having a big market like the one in the States of course helps, but at the moment your company it's working just in US market or also international?
We actually have our company, so at Venpop actually we had about 30% of our client base were from Europe. So I mentioned Pirelli was one of our clients, Gas Europe, a bunch of other Italian companies that are smaller companies. So we had customers in both sides of the world. We also had one person from Europe that was kind of managing sort of our European customers. It was a little bit different. I mean, it was just different selling in both places. Price sensitivity was definitely an issue for us. Some of the support, and it really comes down to who is your customer. We sold a fairly advanced solution. We were helping brands that retailers to sell in social networks, and that meant that the retailers were already doing really well social commerce. They knew what they were doing, and that they were looking at extending that. Italy, there's progress being made in e-commerce in Italy, but it's certainly not quite there yet. And so there was definitely more challenge on being able to get these customers up and running, just from both the marketing pricing standpoint, but also just helping them from a technology standpoint to be ready for that. I mean, it just wasn't there a lot of the time, so it got a lot more complicated. So that's kind of big deal.
Okay, very well. Well, Guk, I cannot ask you how you see the Italian ecosystem from abroad because you are not abroad, but what I want to ask you is, before you told me you've been in Berlin recently, and so you had chances to see other ecosystem in Europe, and you have a German investor, and Germany is pushing quite a lot on this startup ecosystem, so you probably have some figures in order to experience in order to compare Italy and Germany. Can you tell us something about that?
Well, I mean, the first experience that our German investors had, negative experience that they had, is that when I told them that in August all the notaries in Italy would close down, they didn't believe me so much in the beginning. They thought, some of them would close down. But then when we were about to finalize all the documents, I told them all the notaries in Italy are closed. And they were shocked. So they were shocked about this, they didn't believe me, and so we started calling some notaries, but they were all closed. So we had to postpone the closing date because of the notaries in Italy. That was the issue. But in August this year, I went to Berlin for a week during the Ferragosto in Italy. I went to Berlin, and I went there, and I found a completely different experience there. Lots of people were working. They didn't talk about vacation time, summertime, nobody cared. It was actually really cold, so everyone was, with the jackets and so on. Yeah. So they were working. And when I had an appointment with one of our investors for dinner time, he was a bit late because he was at the notary signing a contract for another investment and so on. So it was completely different to see that how in Germany everyone was working, while in August in Italy, nobody was in the city. In Rome was completely empty. Everyone was in vacation. And I found it a bit strange because everyone is complaining about the crisis. Everyone says they don't have money. Everyone says there is a huge unemployment rate in Italy. But when it's vacation time in Italy, since it's vacation time, they don't care. So I don't understand how sometimes people find the money to go to vacation. But in Germany, it's I mean they have lots of money, but they still, don't take so much time off. So that's the difference that I found. It's the same also in for our developers in Romania, Ukraine, and Belarus. They actually didn't even take 1 week off during the summertime. Maybe it was because I was pushing them hard to deliver new updates and so on. But they still actually didn't ask me for a vacation time. They just work freely. They don't mind. They maybe take 1 day off once in a while. But vacation is not so important for now. So that's what I found.
Well, vacation is not a word in the vocabulary of the startups, to be honest. But at the same time, yeah, if you probably in August to search for people that works in the tourism industry, they are working all the time. So it's a point of perspective. But it's true. I mean, if there is any notary in the room, stay open in August and makes a lot of money. This is quite a suggestion. Yeah. I don't know if there are any questions from the room. I think we have something about 5 minutes more. 1, 2. We have a mic. Present yourself, please. Mike is coming. Well, Mike. I don't know her name, but it's not Mike.
Does it work? Yeah. Yes, I'm Christian, Self-Loops company here, startups. I presented yesterday. My question is for those of you that are headquartered in US. There is a lot of emphasis. US is a great place for financing, for connections, but I would like to ask you about finding talent, finding R&D. I think there is a kind of challenge in Silicon Valley to find people because there is a war for talents. And there is also a kind of people are less loyal to the company. They're trying to move on at the next opportunity. And so I believe also in Italy there is an opportunity to have talented people, well-educated, with a lot of creativity and expertise. So what's your take on that?
Okay. Who want to answer? You want to answer to this? And you too? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, we're actually hiring quite a bit now, and so talent. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, definitely when I tell some of my Italian friends the average salaries of developers in the US, that just don't get it. I mean, it's from a pure when you talk about talent, I'm assuming like developers, which is most of the time R&D, what you refer to. Few different points. I mean, make a couple of points, and then probably Marco will take it from there. But there's definitely a lot of them. Meaning, it's easy to find. You can find good talent. Like for example, Seattle, just the Seattle area has 90,000 developers, right? Versus about 65,000 in the Bay Area. The difference between the talent that you find in Italy, and it's just a matter of time, and the ones you find, for example, in Seattle, is the deep, how senior they are. Right. Most times when you work in Italy, they are talented, just they're junior. I mean, it just takes more time, and you have to work closer, and you need better specs and so forth. So it just the ones you find in Seattle is people who worked 10 years at Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, and they just know how to run bigger systems. They can work by themselves, and they just have a lot more experience. And so when you build a team, you can we usually say you rather have 2 good guys than 8 junior average guys, and so we rather focus on paying the 2 good guys that are what usually at the end on the exit it really was very valued for us, for example. Yeah, so that I think it's still true. Like when I see the Italian companies that sometimes I help, being in the US, it helps to just get the right talent. And it's, I wouldn't say that, at least in Seattle, loyalty is not as big of an issue in the Bay Area. I wouldn't say that people are not loyal. They just, are evaluating opportunities, right? That's what you do as a startup guy, and that's what they do, right? They are investing in the company. So if the company is not going well, they're going to move on to the next investment. And so there's nothing, you cannot really put them in a fault for not being loyal. So generally speaking, in terms of average, In Seattle, average dev stays in the company for about 2 years. In the Bay Area, it's a bit less. It's more like a year and a few months. So there is a little bit more loyalty, if you want, in the Northwest compared to the Bay Area. But just because in the Bay Area, there's just a lot more change, a lot more movement, a lot more opportunity all the time. So it's what it is.
Okay. Is this cheaper living in Seattle than in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think from a lifestyle perspective, I mean, if you look at average salaries for a dev in Seattle, it's $115,000 that's gross, and in the Bay Area it's like 120. But the lifestyle cost it's more like 15-20% difference. Meaning the Bay Area in the Bay Area there is state income tax, that's 10%. In Washington State there is no income tax. The state level, that's a 10% difference right there. And it's Seattle just a little bit cheaper, and it's more livable. It's a closer. It's easier to move around the city compared to the Bay Area. So the reason why you see Google, Facebook, all the big famous company from Bay Area opening large offices in Seattle is because they cannot get senior people to move down to the Bay Area essentially, and so they move a chunk of the company up to be able to recruit there.
Okay, thanks, Max. Marco, you want to add something on the issue of the guy? Maybe short, so we have another couple of questions. We have time.
Yeah.
Few minutes.
Yeah. So like as Max said, like hiring in US, it's incredibly difficult, and especially in the Bay Area, there is this kind of culture of developers going from one company to another to create value, because developers that you hire think about the value for themselves, and maybe in 1 year, 2 years, they can do a 20x, 30x, and there's no reason for them to spend 1 more year at the company for a 2x, right? So they go to another company with the chance to make another 20 or 30x. And it really depends on the culture you want to build. We are hiring US developers because we want to create a US culture inside the company. If we started to hire Italians, then it would be incredibly hard to hire new Americans and bring them into an Italian environment, right? So because of that, we need to hire American employees, American developers, and we have American customers, American investors, and that gets into the big picture of creating an American company. One strategy that we are adopting is to hire people from outside the Bay Area and then bring them in the Bay Area. So like from other places in US, like from Atlanta, from New York, from other places, and bring them, in San Francisco. But to find good talents, most of the times you need to still get talent from other companies, and other companies are doing the same with your employees. So yeah, it's competitive, and this is one thing that I don't like about the culture there.
Okay, well, this is the dark side of the force. And any other question? Yes.
Thank you. I'm Mauro from Stein for Real. I'm going to have a pitch in a few minutes. I'd like to ask Guk Kim, you told that you didn't even search for funding in the US, you just searched in Europe and you found them in Europe. I wanted to know if why the reason, just a reason of proximity or for cultural reason. For example, food culture is much stronger in Europe than in the US, and also have you been searching them just in Berlin or also in other capital? If you have some suggestions or experiences or advices for searching funding in Europe.
Well, I never sent an email to VC in the US because I thought it was too far from Rome. So I thought, since I was bootstrapping the company, I couldn't afford to buy a ticket to just travel to US and then look for funding and so on. So I decided to stay in Europe, low cost airlines and so on. So it was easier to travel, and that's how I did it. And I started contacting some VCs in France, some VCs in UK and in Germany. And when I found, 0.9 Capital, they started replying quickly to my emails and so on. So that's how it got started. And I see the attention from them, and then we started talking to them. What I suggest is that you should start sending, instead of sending emails like I did, because at the end the investors told me I'm like one of the few that they actually reply to an email and then start investing and so on. They actually go through connections. So I suggest you to find someone that already got money from the VCs and get introduced and so on. is the best way to find money. And
money has no passport, but you do. So that makes sense.
yeah.
Much sense. I think our time it's almost over. I don't know if the last question from the floor, and if not, I think in perfect time, closing the first early Saturday morning. I hope next year you put me in another time. Exactly. Exactly. With no air conditioning, maybe. Okay, well, thanks very much to Elena, to Marco, to Max, to Guk, and applause to all of them.